Now, Erie's premier podcast. News about music, health, and what's happening. It's Breakfast with Nat the Hat in the 814, sponsored by Erie Insurance.
Well, hello, podcast listeners in the 814. You know, John Muir once said, the clearest way into the universe is through a forest wilderness. Welcome to Podcast 36. It's Exploring Nature's Haven in the 814. This week is National Recreation Week, and I couldn't ask for a better team to come in and talk about recreation and wilderness and all those environmental things than the Executive Director, Jennifer Farrar, and Director of Development and Marketing, Steve Engro from Asbury Woods Nature Center. Welcome, you two. I'm so glad you came in today.
Good morning. How are you?
Good.
Thanks for having us.
Welcome to Breakfast with Nat the Hat in the 814. I'd like to get started by asking you, Jennifer, tell us about your background here in the 814.
Wow.
Are you a born and raised gal?
I
in Erie?
am a born and raised boomerang, like so many of us.
I love the sound of that, a boomerang. There's a few boomerangs in the building.
Yeah.
Right.
So, no, but I went to high school at Iroquois, stayed locally, went to Penn State Barron, and then moved after college for a couple of years. And then when it came time to think about...
You were a brave.
Yeah, I was an Iroquois brave.
You were
yes.
a brave. Wow.
So,
and then you came back. Have you always done nonprofit work?
I have. My entire career has been in the nonprofit sector, and it actually started, I was a history major. It actually started locally at what is now called the Hagen History Center, but I was an intern at the Watson-Curtsey Mansion and absolutely just fell in love with the whole idea of museums and cultural organizations and nonprofits. Did an internship there and have been in the sector ever since.
So tell me some of the other nonprofit organizations that you've worked for in the past.
So I lived in Baltimore for a couple of years, so I actually worked for the Baltimore Museum of Art and the Baltimore Symphony Orchestra.
Nice.
So I got to be just immersed in all this amazing world-class cultural organizations. And then when I moved back, I worked for United Way for a good number of years, and sort of that whole health and human service sector that was interesting to learn about and be engaged in for a while.
That's definitely different than the cultural aspect, for sure.
Absolutely, yes. I mean, and it was different because you're a little removed from it. You know, I'm at United Way. I'm not at the agency every day. You had to really make a point to go out and visit these agencies that we were helping to fund. When I worked at the other places, I just walk out of my office and, oh my, there's like an old master's painting right there, you know. So you had it was different, but I learned a lot, met a lot of people, saw a lot of the need that existed in our community.
Yes.
So yeah, it's been a winding road.
And then where after? Did you? How long?
So I was at United Way. I actually worked then for the Erie Philharmonic for a little while, and Emergicare.
You have come full circle.
I think the interesting part is that Asbury Woods, these past 6.5 years, is really the chance to combine all that various professional experience and all these different organizations with what really matches my personal values and interests. I mean, I'm an outdoorsy person. You know, I want to hike, I want to run, I want to bike, I want to kayak, I sail. I love being outdoors and I love nature. And not all of us just, growing up, that's what we did. Sundays it was like, where are we going to go for a hike? Where are we going to go for a cross-country ski?
Right.
So I was always immersed in the outdoors. And so to be able to now work for an organization that I get to sort of put those personal values into play in my professional life, I mean, it's just a dream come true.
Nice. Now we have Steve. Steve, it's nice to have you on the podcast. Is your position at Asbury Woods Nature Center relatively new? I know that you've been out of town for a while.
Yeah.
Let's go back with you, because you were a St. Pete's boy.
You want to go way back?
Oh, I do want to go way back with you. St. Peter's.
Oh, yeah.
Were you a prep boy?
I was.
Oh, you were a prep boy.
I went to Longfellow for kindergarten. I walked to school for 12 years. I could walk to it. Oh, yeah. I grew up on 9th and Cherry. So,
I know exactly where you grew up, but we'll talk about that too.
Yeah.
Give us your background. I mean,
Yeah.
I know that you were down in New Orleans for quite some time.
Long time, yeah. So I'm same as Jennifer. My entire career has been in the nonprofit arena. So, and I'm a lot more years than Jennifer. Just dating myself here, but
Sure.
36, I guess now. No, 38. Oh my God. Anyway, so I started at the United Way here in Erie.
Here we go.
Yeah, I
Wow.
graduated from IUP, came back. My father's company, which is now owned by my sister Angela and her husband Chris, Angelo's Salon Development Group, right on 12th and State. Been there since '64. It was kind of like, I don't think it was assumed I was going to roll into that, but came out of college and was kind of working for Dad for a year, and all I wanted was to get up and out. I was one of these kind of,
Sure.
got to get out of Erie kind of thing. And so I did. I went to United Way and worked there for the campaign back in 1986. And that led me into a career with United Way that lasted, 26 years, a long time. And mostly in New Orleans. I bounced through North Carolina. I was in Memphis, Tennessee.
Were you?
Went to New Orleans.
I feel the music vibe all around you.
Yeah, as my mother used to say, Southern boy, you've been lost to the South. You keep following the Mississippi down. Oh, she hated it. She hated me being away, youngest of 7. I was her baby boy. But I moved to New Orleans and thought I'd only be there maybe 3 years and just fell in a lot of ways, good and bad.
Sure. And when did you get back to, I want to say the States.
Yeah, right? Yeah.
Back up north.
When did you get back up
Back
north?
up north. It'll be 2 years September.
Well, welcome
Yeah,
home.
yeah,
and
it's great to be back. I love it here.
Then you started working for the Asbury Woods Nature Center when you got back from
Correct.
Wow.
Correct. And it bounced through a lot of different nonprofits, mostly with the United Way, but like Jennifer, I was in the health sector, I worked for the Sisters of Mercy. I
am feeling just heartfelt warmth
Yeah.
for the nonprofit world.
It's a calling.
Yes, it
we
is.
Both, I think,
It really is.
I would, not to speak for Jennifer, but the rewards are very different, right? You can make a good living, you're not going to blow it out money wise, but the satisfaction you get. And what's cool now is this is my first kind of foray into conservancy and preservation and nature. And
Neat.
So I'm learning every place I've been. I've learned so much. Right. I came from Lighthouse, Louisiana, which dealt with people who were visually impaired. So I would be. Orientation was like learning how to use a white cane, and they'd blindfold you and walk you through the streets, and just learning all these different things with these throughout my career. And that diversity is what keeps me excited. The rewards there, they stockpile.
Well, Jennifer, I don't know if you know this, but I bought the Angro home.
did.
Oh,
at
the
9th
family
and
homestead,
Cherry.
huh?
Yes.
My only house.
His
yeah.
only house.
You took it.
I took it. They finally let go.
Yeah.
I ended up and I lived there for 7 years at 9th and Cherry.
626.
626 West 9th.
9th.
And it's interesting because while I was working in radio with Mojo, we ended up, because I thought the place was kind of haunted.
That would be my mother, most likely. But I'm not if my family's listening to this, oh boy, I hope y'all are okay with this.
Yes. So anyway,
Family secrets.
We had this this medium come
There's
over.
definitely Mojo in that house. Yeah.
Yes. So we ended up going over there. We had somebody, I feel somebody on the stairs. I feel this, that. But that house was fabulous. Yeah. Like when I threw a get together, Steve, there was a party on every floor,
Oh,
like the basement.
I have no idea.
The basement, first floor, second floor, third floor.
Yeah.
The band was always up on the
I
third
don't
floor.
want to tell you what went on the various floors.
What a fabulous home! So there is that.
Yeah.
We have a connection.
That's a classic Erie story, right?
Right?
It
Like,
is. It really is.
And being the youngest of 7th, we ran through generations through that house.
I know.
People listening out there, there's probably some that are like, oh, yeah, I remember the basement at the Ingros. We would run 100 people through that house when my parents were just out for dinner. They'd go out for dinner and drinks and go to the spa to listen to music. And I'd have, these
Oh, sure. There was
massive
plenty
parties.
There were plenty of places.
Yeah,
like there was a party on every floor.
Yes, indeed.
Well,
Anyways,
I've
we
got-
digress.
Yes. I have to tell you about my last trip to Asbury Woods. I live in G-Town or Girard, and I try to make a stop on my way home, especially if it's been a long day. I like to say I like to meditate, not medicate. So I love to stop there. So one night, I think the band was playing out. We were playing somewhere, and it was an early gig, and we were on our way back through, and it was spring. It's the last time I was over there. And the peepers were incredibly loud, right? So I'm like, oh, let's go. I said to my husband, let's pull in Asbury Woods. Let's just listen to the peepers for a little while on the Greenway Trail. So we get there. We're the only ones there, and it's just getting dark. And I looked at him, he looked at me, and we both started clapping, and the peepers were really loud, and they stopped, right? And we stood there, and then they started singing again. I mean, it was fabulous. What a fabulous place Asbury Woods Nature Center is. So we just giggled, clapped again. They all quieted down, and they all started, roaring again. But that was the last time I was there. But Jennifer, I'd like to start with you. Can you tell us about the history of Asbury Woods?
Yeah, the history is something that I think a lot of people don't realize how intertwined it actually is with Erie history, because sort of Asbury Woods' original patron was Otto Behrend, who of course was co-owner of the Hammermill Paper Company, and that was
all his property. Then.
That was his property. Well, the original gift was his property. We've expanded many times over the years. But the original property that he donated upon his death in 1957 was his summer cottage, basically. And he had a farm, and it was a working farm, and they had fruit trees. And he actually planted a lot of trees on the property. Sort of, he was a real scientist, and he was sort of the one who was a little more into the science of the paper making and experimenting. And so he planted a lot of various trees on the property. So it started with Otto Behrend, and his gift to, the quote from his will says he was donating it for education and outdoor recreation. And so I always tell the story how, fast forward from 1957 to 2024, our mission statement today still uses those words of education and outdoor recreation. So we're still really true. There's been, numerous changes over the decades, but we're really still true to that intent of Otto's gift.
How interesting that Otto, who ran International Paper, Hammermill, and was taking down trees, was also growing trees at the same time.
He was. He was fascinated by trees and science, and he holds several patents on the paper making process and things like that. So he was a man who was curious and always trying to learn.
What is the mission of your independent nonprofit organization, since we were just talking about that?
Yeah, so our mission today is conserving and protecting our property, providing environmental education opportunities, and providing outdoor recreation experiences.
And you do it all. I kind of like the pancakes and the syrup. I've been there for that too.
Yeah, Maple Festival.
The Maple Festival. I've been there for that too. What are some of the key habitats or ecosystems that Asbury Woods focuses on, Jen?
So we nowadays have 234 acres that we own. And within those acreage, and we're packed right in the middle of suburban Mill Creek Township.
That's what I love about it too. So, it's just like, I'm driving home, I'm on West 38th Street. Yeah. It's like, let me pull in for a moment.
There it is. Yeah. But packed right in the middle of suburbia, we have, some wetland habitats. We have some old growth forest areas. We have some meadow habitats. Of course, we're part of the Walnut Creek watershed. Walnut Creek goes through our property. And so just packed into this tight little area, you can find this whole diversity of ecological habitats. And I think we kind of take it for granted. But last year we were working with this group that we were working on a conservation plan, and they had these ecologists up on our property and walking the property, and every turn of the trail they're like, oh my gosh, wow, I can't believe you have this here, I can't believe this, I can't believe that. They just were amazed how much diversity was packed into that small area, and that it's been protected for all these years.
Jennifer, you have hit the nail on the head, because if somebody out there listening today has not been to Asbury Woods, they need to hop on their bicycle or get in their vehicle and go and check out all the things that are going on over there. I mean, it's incredible. It's a great place to go and to chill and enjoy. How does the Nature Center contribute to conservation efforts?
So, we're focused on the conservation and preservation of our particular property, and managing it and finding that balance between, of course, we want to keep it open to the public for trail use, but we also want to protect habitat for, native plants and animals. So we're very focused on conservation of our own property. But then, of course, through all of our school education programs and public programs we try and push forward those conservation values and help people realize what that contributes to their life and to our community, so that whether they're here in Erie or other places, they believe it's important to protect green spaces and natural places like that.
You are perfect for the role here at Asbury Woods. You are a perfect person to be running this nonprofit organization. During National Recreation Week, I have Asbury Woods Executive Director Jennifer Farrar and Director of Development and Marketing Steve Engro on Breakfast with Nat the Hat in the 814. Well, let's be honest, there are countless of activities going on over at the Nature Center. Steve, now it's your turn to describe to me your roles and responsibilities at the Nature Center.
Do you mind if I play off on a few things that were said earlier, though?
Absolutely.
So just to say a couple things. So
Sure.
Here's me, right? So I just moved back from New Orleans, and the peepers. Never in my life. So I remember the first time. What's the season? That's early spring. Is
Early
it?
spring.
Yeah.
The
They're calling for mates.
They were all talking about the peepers, and I was just like, should I even ask?
But you know what?
I'm like, what's a peeper?
Oh, no.
And, a few of the naturalists are kind of like, you don't know what a peep. And so it was a sound that I had heard before, but I had no idea. So I started. Now I know to pay attention to the peepers. The other thing was when I came to interview, and I hadn't been to Asbury Woods. This is some vague memory on a field trip, maybe from grade school. And in all the years that I lived here prior to moving, and then the years I would come back because all my family was here. My kids were young. We came back constantly. Never once was Asbury Woods on the radar to go to. I don't know why. But I remember rolling up for my interview and just being literally looking around and going, where the heck did this come from?
Right.
Like where this has been here? Like this has always been here like this much? And this beautiful and the Nature Center and all that. So those are the kind of two things that's like, for when you said for people in Erie who haven't been there, and it's amazing like me, I think there's a lot that live here for years
that
Just don't know.
Well, Steve, it's funny you should talk about the peepers because, in Erie, Pennsylvania, when you hear the peepers, it's starting to warm up. Right. Things are getting better. Right. So once I hear the peepers, I am out of control.
There you go.
Like I need to get over to the Nature Center and listen to the peepers because they're all screaming for their mates.
Yeah, I got to switch my biorhythms because down there, that would indicate summer's coming and you're entering a not happy time. That's when you want to run and hide, opposite of here,
So you're relatively new to the organization.
Yep.
And what are your roles, responsibilities? I know that you're marketing and are fundraising and all that good stuff, right?
Yeah. So, that's in a nutshell, trying to get the word out to the public about Asbury Woods and that we're here and the wonderful programming that we provide. And it goes everything from the recreational things to the educational things and onward. I had we were talking about our events. We had Monday music last night.
Who was, you know what? When would
it be? We have another one coming up Monday. So
yeah. Who's next on the Monday music?
Next is Brooks Surgener.
Okay.
Surgener, I think.
But you could go you can log on to the website.
The website. But anyways, there was a man sitting there and he pulled me aside. I said, do you do any meditation programs here? And I was like, oh, I don't know. So let me go grab a newsletter. And I saw there was something there about forest bathing, and I was just like, hey, maybe you want to check out this one, which was cool. So,
forest bathing?
Yes.
Oh, yes.
Don't ask me. I
guess
you commune with.
Well, it's a form of meditation.
I'm learning.
That's a great way to put it, though. Yeah. Forest bathing.
Forest bathing.
I'm going to have to say that when I'm walking through the Greenway. I'm forest bathing.
Yeah, he was very excited because we have stuff for little children to
18 months we start.
Yeah,
with
the
our
whole way up
little
to
toddlers.
seniors.
Awesome.
And, all kinds of stuff. So that's great. But we do a lot of programming and fundraising, obviously, is a big part of what I do. So
Sure.
the Monday Music isn't primarily a fundraising event, but, we ask if people want to donate, they can. But that's more just to draw out kind of people who maybe in Erie have never been, that don't hike, that don't think I'm a nature type person, that then say, well, someone's playing that. It's just some music there. Let me go check it out. And then they get there and then they realize, whoa. And then you kind of maybe draw them in a little. And then maybe they come to a program, right? And they start learning more. They start appreciating nature more and conservation and preservation. And I'm not going to lie to you. Eventually, I want them to give me some money. But,
Sure.
that's not why we're going into it, right? You want to get them to get passionate about it.
Well, I got to tell you, the forest is my second church. I go to Mass,
Yeah.
but I also go into the forest to meditate and enjoy the quiet and the peace and the sovereignty
Right.
of being there. And the Nature Center provides that right here. Yeah, I mean, you don't have to go downstate. You don't have to go running off to far places
Exactly.
to enjoy nature at its finest, because that's what Asbury has to offer. Some of your funding sources, can you talk about those, Steve?
Yeah, so we get a lot of the brunt of our donations come from individuals, which is like most organizations now. But we do get wonderful corporate, support. Am I supposed to name names?
You can name whoever. I wanted to know if you have corporate sponsorships
sure.
and how does that work?
Of course, the ones that are so well known, UPMC and AHN and Erie Insurance, and I hate leaving names out. So if Jennifer wants to chime in,
Sure.
But we're also doing thematic years now. So we're picking a theme for each year, and this is our year of trees.
Nice.
And Jennifer went out and talked to J. Thomas Tree Service, which was perfect, perfect little match there. So they're our sponsor for our year of trees, which
I
is wonderful
love that.
as well. Yeah.
What was last year? Can
The
I
year
know?
of
Year of
water.
water.
Nice. So every year there's a different theme.
Well, this is our second year that we're doing it.
I
and
love
it's just
it.
a way to sort of focus in our programming because, nature, we could pick a zillion topics. We could shotgun it and pick a million things. And so it's just giving us a little bit of focus each year and hoping that, if people come to a couple of programs or read a couple things around the same theme, we sort of move the ball a little bit. So
What are some of your favorite programs at the center? Because I know there's a lot going on. What do you think, Jen?
Well, some of the really popular ones, I don't want, not necessarily my favorite, I'll say the ones that are really popular. People love coming for our owl prowls. And so you take a hike in the woods and
The owl
yes,
prowl.
and you try and call in owls
Sure.
and get them to answer you. People,
Do you have the little things that like who cooks for you?
yeah, you know it.
I know. I'm telling you, I'm right there with you. I know what's
So
Steve Wozniewski leads those,
yeah.
right?
So
That's
we do have the caller, but then also we'll just vocalize it.
Uh-huh.
So those are really popular. Recently, we've been bringing in some outside experts and doing like some mushroom hikes because people really enjoy identifying them.
the morels. Do we have any morels in the?
I'm not an expert on mushrooms. I don't know. That's why we bring in topic experts on those ones because they know it. We have some really popular programs around like composting and rain barrels. Very hot topics.
Right.
And things that you can do at home. Like you can do
To
something
help.
that makes a real difference at home with those couple simple kinds of things like rain barrels and composting. So those are really popular programs.
What do you think, Steve? What have you been? What programs have you been around that you really enjoy?
I was going to play off when she mentioned the foraging for the mushroom. I know that hike was really, really popular. I always go to the fundraising side of things.
Right.
As soon as I saw that sold out and like people were really, really into it, I said, it'd be a great idea is to have like an intimate gathering and do a meal based around foods that if you were an indigenous person that lived in the Asbury Woods area, what meal would you eat? And get like a really good chef to come in and do it.
That's
so if anyone out there wants to sponsor that, give me a call.
Or if there's a chef
If
listening.
there's a chef listening, but
that's a
pair it
great
where you could do
idea.
the mushrooms, you could do whatever they would forage for.
I've been
And
around
then-
the whole mushroom
yeah.
picking thing.
And then you've got
yeah.
yeah,
And
it
then
sounds
the
very cool,
morels, because I lived in Virginia for like 8 years, and they all go morale picking. It's huge up in the Blue Ridge Mountains.
You're right.
So it's like, but there are people that pick the wrong things, and then they hallucinate a bit, and sometimes they have to go have things done. So you really need to have a program like that.
And Pennsylvania's number one. I think most
I do.
mushrooms in the country come from Pennsylvania.
Yes.
Yeah.
So mushroom hunting, that's neat.
I guess other program wise, I mean, I mostly notice the things with the children and the educational stuff. Because
because you have to teach them young.
Yeah, and we do.
It's important.
With Fairview, with the school districts, Fairview and Mill Creek, and we've reached out more to the community schools are coming. There's that constant stream of children. You hear them because we're in an open office setting.
I'm sure you are.
But it's so strange, like when we're in the months when there's no school things coming in. It's just like it's so quiet sometimes. It's crazy.
I got to tell you, I think the first paperback book that I ever had was about ponds and plants. And I had, I don't know, I've moved so many times, I probably don't have it anymore, but that was like one of the first books that I ever had. So, because I love hemlock, you know what I mean? There's certain things, I'm like you guys. I just like being out there and knowing what's going on. And it's really great to have the app on your phone now,
right?
Where I don't know what this is. Let me take a picture of it, and it's going to tell me. I don't know what the program is called, but it's on my phone.
We use one called iNaturalist, or at least I do.
Yeah.
And we actually
Seek or iNaturalist are kind of
the two.
I think I got Seek. I think that's the one that I have.
Yeah,
but it's really neat to figure out what's going on out there.
Program we do is the help me out here.
The City Nature Challenge.
Thank you. You know how my brain.
Tell me about
Jennifer knows how my brain works
That's
or
okay.
doesn't work.
We love having both of you together.
She
on
respects
one
my
stage.
age. That's all I can say, and I admire that in her.
Oh yes.
The City Nature Challenge. You want to expand on that?
Yes.
I'm taking your job now. Sorry.
That's okay.
I think
That's okay.
This is our third year of doing it. I mean, it's a worldwide global thing called City Nature Challenge, and it happens a couple days in April. But one of our employees had brought it from somewhere else she worked, and none had been done in the Erie area, where you get people kind of like this bio blitz for 4 days. Everyone goes out and takes pictures and uploads it through iNaturalist. And then you get to see this range of species that have been identified. And we're mostly like Erie County.
I love it.
So it's great because it's so easy to do. And, our staff, we've given the staff like the day off to go,
cool boss.
Yeah. To consider
She had to
aging
put
challenge.
that in there to let everyone know she's a cool boss.
It's fun to go somewhere I've never been before. Because even as long as I've lived here, there's places I've never hiked or went for a walk. And so you go and you see these new environments. You have your phone, you're taking pictures, you're learning new species, and you're contributing to sort of this global database of biodiversity.
I love it.
So it's a really cool 4 days. We push it out, on social media and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, we use those apps, and that's how it collects all the data.
Yeah, I love that now. I don't need my pond and
Good example of how you keep learning things, because I use it all the time now. People ask me something, I'll be like, here.
Yeah.
Let you know.
I don't know everything, but I know how to find out.
That made me think too. The other really cool one I like is Trout in the Classroom. So we started a program, but tied into a program called Trout in the Classroom, where we get trout eggs and raise them through the process and eventually release them. We just did a release at Lake Pleasant. That was
nice.
When was
I
that?
love it.
May?
June. May or
Was
June.
that June? Everything seems so long ago. And we'll be getting another batch of eggs here soon too. And people love that. I mean, that's another one I love too, because you actually hear people
we're world renowned for trout. We're world renowned.
And we've
catching
tied
trout
in,
here.
Yeah, we've tied in with the Steelhead Association and Trout Unlimited and Fish USA and all these organizations. So that enabled us to bring in a whole kind of new group of people that probably weren't as engaged with Asbury Wood in the past. And I've heard, I know for a fact that they're like this with the kids, just like seeing the kids get excited and to keep that going, that passion for trout fishing. But you'll hear kids come in and be like, oh, you talk about how much bigger they've gotten, or right after we did the release, I heard a guy with his young son, or saying, "Where are the trout?" He's kind of, I guess they're all gone, and
Go catch them out at Lake Pleasant.
right? Exactly. That's the thing.
Well, and for us, we're not necessarily all about fishing, right?
No,
I mean,
time.
but it's the trout in the classroom. It hits so many things because it's like this great life cycle lesson, right? And
Yes,
that we
it
use,
is.
and is a science standard, and so it teaches this great life cycle story. But it also helps us show, like, if you care about these baby trout that you've seen go from egg, to whatever stage we release them, fryling, I can't remember.
Fingerling.
That's
Yes, that's when they go. That's when they go to the wild.
That's when they're big enough to go.
See, some things stick.
If you've watched them, you have to naturally care about what happens to them. You have to naturally care about the quality of that water that we're releasing them into.
Amen.
So it's not, the life cycle lesson is wonderful, and that fits right into science standards. But also it's more generally like, okay, but we want to keep these habitats really clean for our local fish and for all the things that they do and contribute to, healthy water. We live here in this amazing freshwater resource.
No kidding.
So for us, that Trout in the Classroom program, fit into our year of water in that broader sense of protecting and preserving this freshwater resource that is so unique in the entire world. So
Yeah, tell us about summer camp.
oh geez,
Like we got to be in the middle of summer camp, right?
yeah.
It's rock and roll right now. Yeah.
Let's see. I was playing Gaga Ball with summer campers at 7:30 this morning.
I
So
was sleeping.
we all get
I'm not
engaged in
gonna
summer
lie.
camp. Everybody participates in summer camp in
Jennifer
some way.
gets more done before I wake up than most people do it. Until she does. Most people gets up like 4 in the morning.
Oh yeah, I'm like that
That's
too,
still
Jennifer.
nighttime.
The earlier the better for me.
Oh, you too?
Well, because
Boy.
I did morning radio for so long, so
Yeah.
I was up at 3:30 on the road by 4:00. So I'm up at that time anyway. So I'm just like, okay, let's get engaged. I might lay back down, but the birds are really what wake me up, especially in the summer months. The windows are open. They start chirping about 4:15. I'm like, yeah, the birds
almost
are
time.
up.
Yeah.
Right.
But anyway,
because they don't have to go anywhere or do anything, right, Jen?
But the point of that is that summer camp is this amazing thing that happens at Asbury Woods, and everybody gets engaged in it. He may not be playing Gaga Ball at 7:30, but he's being a lunch monitor or whatever.
How many staff members are there at
Not enough.
Asbury Woods? Not enough.
We'll
Good
get back to that
answer.
later on the fundraising questions.
What are we now?
So when does camp start? I mean, is it you bring in a new fresh bunch of campers every week?
Every Monday, there's a fresh batch of campers.
I
yes.
love it.
Yeah, it's great. No, it's really great. So we start with preschool and we go up through middle school, and then kids who are past the middle school age come back and volunteer as like summer camp assistants.
Perfect.
So it's great. We get the whole range. I mean, and we have adults who come and volunteer as summer camp assistants. They love it. They're out, playing games and going on hikes with the kids and building forts.
I love it. I love it. Well, I was a camp counselor too. I was out there at Camp Sequoia, right? Fresh out of high school. And, we got them once a week, and they stayed all night long and for 6 solid days.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, at least you get to send them home.
I used to go to Camp Sherwin.
Were you at Camp
I was
Sherwin?
a Camp Sherwin kid.
But
yeah.
I was a camp counselor, and that was for the Erie Boys and Girls and Boys Club. I always like to put girls before boys. Anyway, the Boys and Girls Club, and camp's so important. And that's what you do. You do all the nature stuff, and it gets them off their iPads and their games and their Game Boys.
It's just fun. Yes, they learn some things, but it's fun, and that's what we want. Like I often will say, I'm like, even with the school groups, do I want them to remember those life cycle stages? Yes, of course I do. Do I want them to remember that specific tree or whatever lesson? But beyond that, even the summer campers, I just want them to remember how awesome it felt to be outside and in the woods and in natural spaces. That's like this internal value I want them to take away, whether they remember any of the science of it, because some of them will. Some of them will go on to be like science nerds and careers and do these deep dives. But most of them, I just want them this awesome summer camp experience where they think, it was so great to play outside. It felt so good to go for a walk in the woods on that hot summer day, and I felt the shade and could feel the breeze of the trees. I want them to feel that internally so they carry that forward and feel it's important to protect places like that.
Can they still sign up? I know.
No.
How about
Gosh.
no?
Summer camp. Oh, I know she's getting. I'm in.
Like, are you-
I'm in process of converting to be more of an outs. Not that I'm an indoor person, but seriously, no. She jokes with me all the time. But I always go to the beach. I was a lifeguard and all that. But I was never one that like went out in the woods. Just I didn't grow up hunting and fishing. It just wasn't in my family. If you're not exposed to that stuff, you do what you're exposed to, right? Mm-hmm. So this is all new world to me too, which is part of why I love it. So, but summer camps, no, oh my God, they sell out so quickly.
That's what I was going to say. Now,
We have
when
a
do the
huge
kids?
waiting list,
Yeah, I know.
yeah.
When do the kids get to sign up for summer camp? Like is that-
February and March.
Yeah,
that's how far back you go.
and it slams.
So
quick.
parents out there, listen. If you
I would
want
not be a successful parent at this. Like in this, I was not splitting my kids' summer experience to like May.
Exactly.
Nowadays, you got to plan in like February, March.
It's insane.
Interesting. And then there's
crazy.
this big long waiting list.
Yes, there is.
So when does it start? Does it start early June and then go through the
Starts
end?
like the week after school gets out. Yes.
Right.
and
So
then-
we had, we will have school kids coming until like 3 days before school ends. We usually have like 1 week where we do a reset from school curriculum visits, and then it's summer camp for till mid-August.
and then you quiet down a little bit, and then the kids come back just for
The day after Labor Day. to come back.
for programming tied in with the schools. Yeah,
Yeah.
our education
It's great.
staff.
There is so much
They
going
run and
on.
gun, yeah.
But we've talked a lot about the programs, but I always like to remind people people have come to the programs and they come with their kids, think about the nature center side, right? Mm-hmm. Sometimes they forget that we have this whole other part of the property.
Let's talk about the whole other part of the property, Jen.
So, not everyone wants to come to a formal scheduled program. We have tons of acres that is just hiking trails, free and open to the public. We don't charge to use our trails. You can come, daylight hours, 365 days of the year.
Oh, I'm
and
there.
Use the trails.
Mm-hmm.
And, everything from walking your dog to going for a run, wading in the creek. The other day when you and I, Stephen and I were going over to look at something on one of the trails. So he does get on the trails. Don't let him fool you.
She dragged me out.
Yeah. We were going to look. It was a hot
My
summer day last
sciatica and
week.
everything else.
And there's this whole group, probably 3 or 4 moms,
Yep.
kids from like toddlers to middle schoolers. They're hiking up Brown's Farm, and you can tell they have all their gear, and they're going to the creek to wade and play and have lunch for a couple hours.
See, and how about that, both of you? Like, that's what I was doing as a kid because we had nothing else to do, and we only had 3 channels on television, and your parents watched what they wanted
Right.
to.
Oh, yeah.
So it'd be like, okay, grab yourself a little lunch, and then
I
we'd
did-
go
I
down
did-
to,
yeah.
we'd go down to the woods or whatever, or hike or do whatever, because we didn't. That's all we had back then.
Right. And so that's this morning. I was on the trails this morning too, and I passed this kid by himself on his mountain bike. He was probably a teenager. I was, that's great. I'm so happy to see it. So that part of the property is really, it's just splendid.
It is
beautiful.
There, you cannot say a better word than splendid because I it's like my car tilts right in there. You know what I mean?
Nice.
Especially during, like I when you're having a bad day.
Good antidote.
Yeah,
for
you're
that.
like
Okay.
your like whole blood pressure just goes down a couple notches as soon as you walk into the woods, right? Like busy, stressful day, you walk into the woods, and there's all this science behind it, but it's just like we know it, we feel it. All this science behind it of like your eyes seeing the green and the outdoors and the open space, but your blood pressure just drops.
Well, that's the other thing that I always do. Like when I get in with all the greenery, I'm like, breathe, smell. You'll never get a better smell than what you do in the forest.
Right.
You know what I mean? And cleaner air than you get. I mean, I'm right there with you guys. I'm telling you.
And playing off on
Love
the other
everything.
half of the property and tying back into things like Monday music. So I had someone else approach me, and this person was like, well, he's like, he's like, I come to Asbury Woods all the time. He's like, but I've never come to this side. This side being now the side where most people go, where the nature center is.
Mm-hmm.
And he's like, I just always assumed there was an admission fee and I would have to pay to walk on the boardwalk or go in the nature center. So he was like the polar opposite, right? He had done everything on
the other side,
on the beautiful, acreage side, and was coming for Monday Music, and it was the first time he had walked into that side and just been like, I had no idea.
Well, and I don't know how many people know how beautiful it is during the holidays. Ooh, yeah. Holidays. I am telling you, the lights, everything there is how long does it take to do all that?
Well, we have to admit that we have a wonderful, wonderful corporate sponsor and partner in Weiss Early Landscaping who comes and puts up most of those lights. So our staff does some of them and some of the decorations, but they come because, they do that as part of their business. They do the downtown delights.
Right.
So they
fabulous.
have the big lifts and cranes and do all the high trees. So we're eternally grateful for the work that they come and do to make that possible for the public.
That's another time that I'm there for the lights at Christmas time, and you can drive at any time. They're on. They're there.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? During the holidays, that's lovely.
Yeah,
I'm telling you, I'm so worked up because this has been a really good conversation with the two of you.
Now you're getting ready to me for Christmas.
See,
right?
Asbury Woods Nature Center. That's what fundraising does.
Yeah.
It just keeps moving in your head, Stephen.
I know. It does.
Yeah.
It needs to stop one of these days.
So what are some of the challenges that you're facing right now? Do you have any challenges that you'd like to share?
I think probably our current biggest challenge, and this is something that goes through cycles of most organizations. One of our biggest challenges right now is the funding side. Mm-hmm. We can only charge so much for a school child to come.
Right.
We can only charge so much for a walk in the woods, and so much of our programming we also do for free. We do free hikes every week. We do free Monday music. The nature center is free to come. The trails are free. And we're really, really deeply committed to that because we want to make sure that people have easy access, that, cost is not a barrier. We're not funded by tax dollars. A lot of people think we're owned by Mill Creek Township or things like that. We are not.
Glad that you're sharing that.
Yes, so we're a completely separate, independent nonprofit. So we've been in sort of this growth cycle the past couple of years. We have added some staff, and that's really expanded our capacity of how many school students we're serving. As Stephen mentioned, we served 12% more kids this past year because we expanded our staff. Mm-hmm. But the funding is a challenge for us at this current moment.
Are there grants available? Are you involved in any grants?
Yeah. Oh yeah, so I said earlier we do individual funding, corporate funding. Of course, we're reaching out. We do grant writing and foundation. So we try to find the support anywhere we can. So,
right.
But we've added acreage too, which is the other thing that we've also since I've been there, about 30 acres have been added. Which also brings with it,
additional upkeep and costs.
Yeah, I was going to say
thing,
the care of that 30 more acres.
Yeah.
How did that happen? How did we get into 30 more acres? Did somebody just say, "Here you go"? Or how'd that work?
No, they did not just say, "Here you go."
But yeah.
Well, I would give it to you.
Nothing's
Because
free.
that's what I always say. My
Nothing's
husband always
really
says about
free.
me, Natalie, you always give it away. So that's what I would do. But did you purchase that 30?
Partially. So
Okay.
there is an 11 acres that we bought in 2021 that fronts to West 38th Street. We bought that from a private owner.
Okay.
Adjacent to that acreage was about 40 acres that have been owned by Mercyhurst University, have been donated to them. And actually part of our trail system went through that property. Most people never knew, because it was confusing. Mercyhurst owned it, but the trail went through it. So Mercyhurst donated half of it, and we paid for half of that 40 acres.
So that
was in 2022. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So we've added 51 acres since 2021.
Wow.
That much.
I didn't know that.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. There's not a lot of trail at this point. Like I said, that the trails go through the Mercyhurst. Mm-hmm. All of the frontage to West 38th Street, we have not developed any trails or anything like that. I referenced we did this big conservation, this sort of land management plan last year that we're looking at where it may or may not be appropriate to put some trails through that property. There's this wonderful, it was a new one for me. We're all always learning. A fen, which is a type of wetland.
Yeah,
that is
that
not
was a new one for me.
all that common. So, we hear of swamps and bogs, but this is a fen. And
fen?
A fen, F-E-N, yes.
That's interesting. That's new to me too.
Yeah. So there's this fen, and there's some certain species of moth that is sort of near the fen that is not found all that many other places in Erie County. So it provides an interesting opportunity to maybe make trails there someday and some observation decks, but we would have to be sensitive to plant life that supports the fen and this moth species. So it's interesting. That's kind of the conservation side and that balance of the conservation and the plants and wildlife and people access. But yeah, we added acreage, and so we're responsible for that. But as we talked about, we're in suburban Mill Creek, so acreage doesn't come up that often. So when it does, we try to find a way to make it happen.
Sure.
Yeah.
I get on your website, which is asburywoodsnaturecenter.com. Am I right?
asburywoods.org.
.org, asburywoods.org. And there are so many awesome volunteers. You have volunteers. They have to be the foundation of your organization.
Yep, huge part of what we do.
So how can we get volunteers to come in? I mean, they could do pretty much anything,
Oh my
right?
gosh, we say every time someone mentions the word volunteers, we cannot do what we do without our volunteer workforce.
So anybody with time, talent, and treasure
Yes.
that wants to be a part of one of the best treasures
Yes.
Yeah,
in our beloved city.
Yeah, I mean, you could come tell me what do you love to do, and we can probably find a thing for you to do, right? I mean, we have
Yes.
our gift shop and people who come and help greet our visitors. We have people who come and help just be lunch monitors for half an hour at summer camp. We have people who come and spend all day at summer camp with the kids. We have people who come do school programs, weeding,
Grass cutting.
a lot of weeding, grass cutting, right. Weed whacking.
Bubba, one of our, and Bill Smith. There's two, Bubba and Bill Smith.
Yeah, we have someone who he comes almost every Saturday and removes invasive species
all day long. Every
and
Saturday.
he chops wood to feed you mentioned Maple Fest. Mm-hmm. To run that evaporator takes a lot of split wood of very specific sizes. We have a volunteer who that's his deal. He comes in.
That is great.
So he does much more for us than that, but that's his specialty. And you wouldn't think about it, but we need a lot of wood to keep that evaporator going. So
How many volunteers do you have right now? What would you say?
Yeah, right now I think we have somewhere around 400, I would say. And last year it was over 8,000 hours of time. Yeah. We actually have some events come up. We have an open house. I mean, people can keep their eyes peeled for that.
Okay.
And then, but it's always the ability there to go online and register to volunteer. And then we have a volunteer coordinator who will then follow up with you, gauge your interest areas, get the appropriate paperwork, and try to line you up with something that fits what you're looking for. So
Great.
Yeah.
Love it.
And I always try and remind people too, we have volunteers who come 3 days a week. We have volunteers who come once a week. We also have volunteers who come once a year because they love to volunteer for Scary Creature Feature.
Okay, stop. Back up.
Yeah.
Right.
I haven't heard about Scary Creature
gosh,
Feature. Okay, go ahead.
So
Run that by me.
This is our really cute little thing in October that we do, and it's really kind of for younger ages, maybe 3 to 7 or 3 to 8. And you do this walking tour through the woods, and you meet characters who are nocturnal animals. So they're not so scary creatures, like a bat and an owl.
Do you still have some animals? Because I know at one time.
We do.
What kind of animals do you have over there?
Well, we have a rabbit. We have a black rat snake, George.
Lots of turtles.
Many, many turtles.
Many
yes.
turtles, sure.
What's the froggy's name? They always talk about
Oh, the troll.
Troll.
Oh,
Troll
yeah.
the toad.
Yeah.
I mean, he looks, the summer campers this morning were like, oh my gosh, Troll's getting out. Like we'll just find him like in the office or down the hallway.
And Gertrude, the turtle.
Gertrude.
She's like 80 years old or something.
yeah.
Wow, it sounds like my mother. That's my mother's name. She's
See her
91.
when she gets out.
Does your mom trying to escape too? Yeah.
When she gets out,
Oh, yes.
is motoring around. The one time I saw her, I was like, I had no idea that turtles could move that fast. I mean, she was like, I think it was the happy season, so she was, maybe pursuing some
Well, they found her
fun, but
outside
yeah.
one time. She
Yeah,
was
yeah.
missing for like 3 days. She had made it outside during mating
Bolting
season.
for the door. Yeah, bowling for
You
the
got
door.
to be careful. Mating
I know,
season's
right?
a big deal.
But I had just, again, learning process. I was like, I had no ideas like turtles could move.
Stephen, you would be a joy to be around at the office. That he's just learning all these wonderful new things and being an outdoors guy.
Yeah, I'm
Yeah.
outdoors. I was an outdoor guy in the city.
We
like-
get it. You're on
hiking
9th and
shoes
Cherry.
now.
I do
So-
have hiking shoes. I do have hiking shoes now. Yes,
I'm proud of you. Some hiking
too.
shoes.
Me too.
So we talked about volunteers. How can people donate? And is there any activities or fundraising coming up that they need to know about?
Sure, we have events all the time. Timing. I mean, we've got our Wine and Dine in the Woods event coming up.
Ooh, Wine and Dine in the Woods.
Yeah, that's July 12th.
Okay, yeah. All right.
Yeah, so that's a big one for us. And then always again online.
You just check and see what's going on.
Yep.
So-
and they can give online directly, individually.
And then, of course, Erie Gives.
Erie Gives Day
In
is coming
August.
up. Thank you for.
So, yes, absolutely. That's
Yeah, that's a-
important. We
that's a
need to
big
make
one
people
for us.
aware
Yeah.
of the important work that you're doing.
And we do well. We do well with Erie Gives Day too. So
and helping out the kids and just your whole environment. And it sounds to me, with your 51 new acres, that you're going to need our help.
yes, indeed.
Volunteers. Is there anything else that you may want to talk about before we, call it a morning on Breakfast with Nat the Hat and the 814?
I think
the two of them
the
looking at
only
one
thing
another.
I'll say about the volunteers part is, we love our volunteers, and it's like they're so passionate. Like I always tell
yes.
people, it's like when I worked in the arts. Like it's like part of who they are and their life and their values, and so if this kind of place is important to you, like spending time there is like being around like-minded people who care about the same things you care about and all want to work towards the same thing, so it's really, I think it's this really special intersection of the staff and the volunteers who all care about Asbury Woods. And like most of us tease like, well, even if we didn't work here, we would still be spending time here, and same thing with our volunteers. Even if they didn't come to volunteer, it's still a place they love to come. So
Well, and it seems to me a lot of them are teaching the children. So important, and helping the children.
well, yeah,
to-
and being adult role models who
Like, it keeps you
like
young.
and respect nature is what passes that on to the kids.
That's I said. Volunteering. Say you're retired now,
Right.
and you're looking for things to do. Well, why not go there and share that love?
Yeah.
That love of nature with the littles. I mean, I can't think of a better way to give back.
100%.
Yeah.
Because I think, and especially since the pandemic, the kids need this.
Absolutely.
The
Yeah.
kids need this.
So are we signing you up? Is that what we're saying?
She's like,
You know what?
she's volunteering for Scary Creature
listen.
Feature, I think.
Oh my
Yeah.
God, that's
Yeah.
awesome too.
Well, and that's the thing is like you can come just once a year.
I'm coming up on
you could be
62.
one of the-
You two. I
You
just
could be
want to
one-
let you
You could be
know.
one of the characters. They tell little stories. Great
I-
costumes.
I
There's a
love it.
skunk costume and a Luna moth. Yeah.
Oh, the Luna moth.
Oh, yeah, that's a
More
good
my
one.
style.
Well,
This-
and we have a brand new event that we haven't talked about it anywhere
okay.
else
Thank
yet.
you. Get
So
that
if
in.
you
Oh
have
my
a minute,
gosh.
we'll
Give it
talk
up.
about it here.
Give it up, girl.
All right. So we have a brand new event coming up in September that is called Winnie the Pooh's Asbury Adventure. So instead of the 100-acre woods, you will meet Winnie the Pooh and his friends in our Asbury Woods.
Oh, nice.
So,
Cool, right?
yeah, so we'll have all kinds of theme stations with the characters, these fully costume characters that the kids can meet, take a walk through our path and see the houses of the characters and their little doors. And, so it's going to sort of be this classic Asbury Woods experience where yes, it's fun and magical, but also they'll learn a little bit along the way. So yeah, so that's coming up in September. Brand new event. We haven't put it out on any media yet, so you're hearing it first.
Just got a scoop.
Here. I got the scoop first.
You
I love when
did.
that happens.
Yeah.
This is podcast 36, Exploring Nature's Haven in the 814. And Asbury Woods Nature Center is an absolute haven. And I thank you and your entire staff for all the wonderful events and things that you do for not only adults and children, but everybody in the 814. And if you haven't been to Asbury Woods yet, if you are a transplant,
Yes.
please take the opportunity to pop on by and see everything that's going on, because it is lovely. I want to talk about John Allen Livingston. He was a naturalist, a missionary, and a broadcaster, teacher, and author. So I've read a couple of his books, which are fabulous. And he was a Canadian philosopher and environmentalist. He's also known for his contributions to environmental ethics, his advocacy for the protection of the natural world. And this is what you're doing there at Asbury Woods. You are protecting our natural world. You know, Livingston's work explored the ethical dimensions of human interaction with the environment. He emphasized the intrinsic value of nature, which, Jen, you just spew that all the time. Love it. And he argued for a more harmonious and sustainable relationship between humans and the natural world. So I am going to end the show with a quote from John Livingston. He said, "God, send me anywhere. Only go with me. Lay any burden on me. Only sustain me. Sever any ties in my heart except the tie that binds me, my heart to yours, and the nature that you provide." I mean, that's just awesome. So thanking you, Jennifer Farrar, Executive Director of Asbury Woods Nature Center. And Steve, you are a valued treasure to their community. And I noticed that you only have 2 years under your belt. Well, this one's got 6.5.
I know.
But
I'll get there.
you are on your way. And welcome home.
Thank
we
you.
appreciate you. And everybody, get to Asbury Woods and enjoy everything it has to offer. Thanks for coming in today.
Nat.
Thanks for having us.
You've been tuned in to Breakfast with Nat the Hat in the 814, sponsored by Erie Insurance on 88.5 and 102.7 LECOM Radio.